Hey guys, welcome. Let me share my screen with you. Here we go. And we are in the Revolutionary War, part 1 on Thursday. And we are going to be learning about two events that happened at around the same time: the Second Continental Congress meets and the Battle of Bunker Hill. The battle didn't actually take place on Bunker Hill. It took place on Breed's Hill. They originally were going to build a fort on Bunker Hill, and it got moved, and so the name stuck as Bunker Hill, but it actually took place on Breed's Hill. All right, so we're going to look at this page from George versus George. When last we met, we learned about Lexington and Concord, those the first battles of the Revolutionary War. And so this picks up where that left off. Each side told a different tale about Lexington and Concord. Rebel newspapers reported that bloodthirsty redcoats burned houses, drove naked women into the streets, and butchered old men and infants. The king was told that the rebel savages broke the rules of war by ambushing his army. Then they scalped fallen British infantry and cut off their ears. So both sides are telling horrible, gruesome stories about the other. George Washington was already famous for his fearless leadership when he fought alongside the British 20 years earlier. On June 15th of 1775, the Second Continental Congress gathered in Philadelphia and unanimously elected the 43-year-old Virginian to become commander-in-chief of their newly formed Continental Army. That's not much older than I am now. But how could a small, poorly trained army with almost no money defeat one of the world's most awesome military powers? Washington refused to accept any salary, asking only that Congress pay his expenses. So there's a picture of Washington there, and he says, "I do not think myself equal to the command," meaning that you have given me a really, really big responsibility. I hope I don't let you down. The very next morning, long before Washington took command of his troops, the redcoats back in Massachusetts awoke to discover an amazing sight. In just one night, about 1,200 rebels had secretly built a massive fort on top of Breed's Hill in Charleston. Both sides fought fiercely until the rebels finally ran out of gunpowder and ammunition. The rebels ended up losing the hill, but the British lost 92 officers, more than half their men, and more than twice as many soldiers as the rebels lost. Okay. And so there are videos of Bunker Hill, Breed's Hill, and the Second Continental Congress that you can watch to learn a little more. Here is a picture, a map, if you will, of Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill. The original plan was to build the fort on Bunker Hill, but Breed's was bigger and higher, and they thought that would give them a better advantage. All right, so the Battle of Bunker Hill. The Battle of Bunker Hill was actually fought on Breed's Hill. It was June 1775. Patriots learned that the British were going to occupy the hills over Boston. The Patriot troops wanted to stop them at Bunker Hill, but Breed's Hill was closer to Boston. So that is where the Patriots stood their ground. Colonel William Prescott, their commander, gave them a now famous order: "Don't one of you fire until you see the whites of their eyes." Then the British saw that the Patriots had built a fort. They shipped 2,500 soldiers over from Boston. 2 times the British troops stormed Breed's Hill. 2 times the Patriots forced them back down. On the third strike, though, the Patriots ran out of gunpowder. They were forced to retreat. The British took over the hill, but this battle was the bloodiest of the Revolutionary War. About 1,000 British and 400 Patriots were either hurt or killed. So we did not win the Battle of Bunker Hill. We lost, but we lost fewer men than the British. And something that the Patriots were doing is they targeted, that means they aimed for the officers. So instead of just shooting and killing randomly, they had very little gunpowder and very little ammunition, and they aimed for the officers because the officers are the ones giving the commands. And they thought, hey, if we can take out the officers, then we have a chance that the soldiers won't know what's going on. Another thing that the famous quote that came from there is, don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. So I challenge you and a friend to get on either side of the room and see if you can see the white part of each other's eyes, and see how close you have to get until you can see the white part of each other's eyes. And the reason is, if I am aiming at something far away, I have more chances of missing it. And if all I have is one shot, I don't want to miss. So Colonel Prescott was trying to get his soldiers to conserve, to hold on to their gunpowder and ammunition, because they didn't have very much. Because we still aren't an army. We are still a bunch of colonists, you know, just using the weapons and tools that we have. So even though we lost Bunker Hill, we ran out of ammunition because of this battle. As the Second Continental Congress is meeting, because of this battle and the battles of Lexington and Concord, people are like, we have got to fund our army. We have got to send money to the cause. We have got to make gunpowder. We have got to get weapons, because it's not fair to send our husbands, our sons, our brothers, our uncles into battle without enough to protect themselves. So even though we lost the battle, good came out of it. I think in the rap it says, even though we didn't win the battle on that night, a sense of harmony had pushed its way into the bloody fight and caused them to unite. So the folks are saying, okay, yes, we need to give some of our money to fund the army and to buy weapons and ammunition. This picture here from George versus George shows a depiction of the rebels atop the mountain. That would be the Patriots. That would be the colonists up there on the hill, I mean. And then you have the redcoats. The Patriots are outnumbered greatly, but because they held on to their ammunition and didn't fire till they saw the whites of their eyes, and because they targeted the officers, the British actually ended up losing way more people in that battle. And at the bottom, you have British officers talking and discussing. And this guy with the brown hair over here says, from an absurd carelessness or ignorance, we have lost 1,000 of our best men and officers. So he is upset that they lost 1,000 guys that day. And this man in the middle says, a dear bought victory, meaning we may have won, but it cost us a lot. A dear bought victory. Another such would have ruined us. If they had had to go and fight that same battle again, he says we would be done. We would be done. We'd be ruined. And then the last guy there says, these people show a spirit as great as ever people were possessed of, and you must proceed in earnest or give the business up. Meaning these guys, these patriots, these colonists, they aren't kidding. They're willing to fight and fight hard. And we better be serious about this or give up. we better be sure this is really what we want to do. So that's pretty powerful that those words are coming from the British, you know, who could do no wrong and ruled everything. That's pretty powerful, but these words come out of the fight that happened at Bunker Hill. All right, so let's take some notes on Bunker Hill and the Second Continental Congress, and then you can go back and watch those videos on your own there. Okay, so I'm right after the Revolutionary War begins, and both of these events happen in June within the day of each other. So we have June 1775, Battle of Bunker Hill. And I'm going to put in parentheses below that Breed's Hill, because it really was fought on Breed's Hill. But it has gone down in the history books as the Battle of Bunker Hill. I'm going to box that out. And I am going to highlight it because it is one of our major battles that we're supposed to know from the Revolutionary War. I do want you guys to know that we will not talk about every single battle from the war. If I spent and told you every single thing about the Revolutionary War, we would never be done in 4th grade. Okay? We're going to talk about the major turning points. So the Revolutionary War beginning, we talked about Lexington and Concord. That's pretty major. The Battle of Bunker Hill, even though we lost it, it made the colonists decide that, yes, we're really at war. We've got to fund people and we've got to have an actual army, not just farmers running out of bed at night. We've got to have an actual army that goes and is paid to fight for us. Okay, so this was the bloodiest battle. So even though we ran out of gunpowder and lost, we gave a good fight. We let the British know this, we for reals, okay? And we killed and wounded about 1,000 British soldiers. There we go. Alrighty. And I'm gonna draw Colonel Prescott and his tricorner hat. Oh, sorry, shift that over a little bit. And his tricorner hat. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes is the famous quote from here. And I'm going to put him in blue. And same date, June 1775, we have the Second Continental Congress. Remember, at the first was where they decided to go home and form militias. Well, here at the second, they're like, we got to kick it up a notch. We can't just have militias. We need a real army. We need to train soldiers. We need uniforms. We need guns. We need to prepare. This is no longer just defending our homes. This is war. So we need a real army. We need trained soldiers. We need weapons, all the things that come with a real army. And they appoint George Washington Commander-in-Chief. Of the Continental Army. So here we have the creation of the Continental Army. I'm gonna put little blue stars. Because the Continental Army is being formed at this point in time. Kind of a neat connect back. When we read about Abigail Adams, it was April of 1775, same year, when John Adams was asking her to experiment with saltpeter or how to make gunpowder. So you can kind of see April 1775 is when the war began. And so John is like, war's beginning. We're gonna eventually get to where we are going to need weapons and gunpowder. And so, you know, Abigail Adams wrote about that. So we know that people did start to work on creating weapons and things. All right, guys. So 2 big events for June of 1775 in our notes today: the Battle of Bunker Hill, and the Second Continental Congress meets and appoints George Washington Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, meaning he's in charge of it. He's the guy with the strategies. He's the guy who's going to help get the soldiers trained. He's the one who's going to plan for the battles that are ahead. See you next time.